What's up guys, Chris here from Signs of Life. Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to discuss the pros and cons of audio and MIDI. You know, I see a lot of people out here who are keeping their tracks in MIDI all the way up to the final mixing stage, and you know, that's not maybe the best way you want to go about it. So, you know, if this video is helpful for you, maybe you're a beginning producer who's just starting out, that's totally fine. And you know, this is meant to help everybody really. So even if you're further along on your path, you might learn something from this video. So anyway, let's discuss this. In front of us, we have a Synphaera track, and I consider this track pretty much, it's getting close to being ready to mix, right? Now, as you can hear, I'm gonna start playing the track. You can hear, it starts off right away with like this reversed delay kind of thing that I made in Serum with Valhalla delay here. But you can hear that like, it's almost kind of random in a way, right? And you know, there's a lot of randomized MIDI that I made in Seed here. You can see the MIDI, right? It's got randomized velocity. So here's the thing. When I go to export this, say if I just like exported it right now and I just exported all 9 minutes of the track, right? And I said, okay, that's my track. I could do it once and it might sound a certain way. But then I could do it again and it might sound slightly different from when I did it the first time. Why is this? Well, because you might have certain things on your track, like say a sequence that doesn't hit the same every single time. You might have like a glitch percussion track that has one of the, you know, Signs glitch percussion effect racks on it, and it's set to random mode, right? That might, you know, affect the percussion differently, right? So there's all kinds of factors that go in to consistency. And when we talk about mixing in audio, you really want to focus on consistency. So this is one of the biggest reasons why you'd want to bounce all of this to audio before you actually go into the mixing stage. So as you can see, the track continues on, and you know, this part right here, I've already bounced this to audio because this was created in VCV rack. You can see I have like a rack here that I created. And again, that might not hit the same way because it's got a sample and hold module here, right? That is spitting out random values into this VCA that's in turn changing the rise and fall times. So this is another example of why MIDI is, I mean, it's great for manipulation and it's great for creation, but like as a mixing, you know, platform, not so much, especially when you're talking about this kind of music. Now, sure, if you have something very consistent like this bass, I mean, this bass is gonna hit pretty much the same every single time, right? It's just gonna be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you don't have to worry too much about that. However, you know, as a general practice, I like to move into audio at this stage rather than staying in MIDI. The other benefit is, you know, I'm running at 23 CPU, 23% CPU up there. You can see that. With audio, it's gonna be significantly less. So that's another benefit of it. I have a pretty good CPU. It's not like the latest and the greatest, but it's not bad, right? So that's another reason why you'd want to go to audio. Now, how do you get to audio? Now, here's the thing. I'm using the utility template in Ableton Live, and you might not be. You might be using, you know, Logic, or you might be using Bitwig or something, but your track might look like this, and you might have, you know, all of these MIDI tracks lined up, right? So what I like to do, and this is something I've been doing for a really long time because I've been using the utility template for so long, I like to bounce into audio and then duplicate all of my tracks that I just bounced and then freeze half of them and leave the rest. Why do I do this? Well, I do this because say I, you know, realize that like, okay, this track down here, right? It's like the main lead sound, okay? I made it in Pigments. You can see it right here. It's like a pluck that I made out of a soundscape, right? And a real big consideration is how far this filter is traveling, right? So I have the envelope here, which is pinging it every single time, but I also have this LFO, which is moving it back and forth. But the position of that LFO is actually crucial to how the pluck comes across, because if it's too buried, it's gonna sound like you can't even hear it. If it's too high up, you're gonna hear too much of the high frequencies. So I might decide that I wanna change that later, right? Well, the good thing about having MIDI is you can just open it right back up and change it, right? So this is why I keep the MIDI around, right? So there's two ways to go about this. You could either bounce it all and duplicate the tracks, which is what I do, right? To keep it all in one session. Or you could say, all right, I'm gonna save this track in place, just save it, and then do a save as another version, like say this is like mix 1 or something. And I do that too. So like mix 2, right? You could just forget all the MIDI. And then if you want to, you're gonna have to go back and either open up that session and fix it, re-export it, and then put it into the next session. Or in Ableton, I can use the browser here and I can say, all right, I can just load up a project. And then you can see that like all the tracks here are on the left-hand side. So if I needed to, I could grab one of these tracks and just hold control and drag it in, and then I have the track again, right? So there's two ways to do it. You either save as a new version, or if you have something cool like an Ableton browser or a Bitwig browser, I don't know what browsers you guys got, you know, like you could drag it in, right? And some DAWs like Logic even allow you to like open multiple projects in one. Like Ableton, you can't do that. So, you know, like I said, different stroke for different folks. You got you got different ways to go about it, right? So I'm gonna freeze this audio, and then on the other side, we're going to talk about how to actually get into mixing once it's finally in audio. All right, so now I've got all the tracks frozen that I want to, and they're all selected. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate all of the tracks, and then we're gonna flatten them. So I'm gonna select them all right here. Let's select them all again. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to right click and duplicate them. And it's going to make copies of each of the tracks. You're gonna see they're gonna show up down here at the bottom. And what I'll do is I will unfreeze those tracks, right? I will select them all, okay? And then I'm going to group them. In Ableton, you can hit Control G, and then now they're all grouped, and I'm gonna turn off that group, and then I can select all the tracks again, and I can deactivate them if I want. So now what I have is I can rename this group down here, MIDI. I have a MIDI group, which has all of my MIDI tracks, and they're all deactivated, meaning all of the plugins are off, and the tracks are just there. Now, whenever I want to reference it, if I need to, I can go back to that. Now, back to the audio up here, I still have all these tracks up here, right? So I'm going to select all the tracks that I want, and I'm going to select all the tracks that were frozen, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say flatten, all right? Again, this may differ for your DAW, but in here in my DAW, in Ableton Live, freeze and flatten is what we're doing. So, all right, we just went into Portal there. That was very strange. Anyway, so now we have audio for all of the tracks. Now, the whole track is in audio, so you can see I can play it. It lowered my CPU by almost 10, right? But now, what we have here, the big thing is we have consistency, right? We have every single one of our tracks. They're all just ready to be mixed, ready to be volume automated. I pointed out the other day that, you know, in Ableton Live, like you have these really nice little like handles that don't show up in MIDI tracks, but they do show up in audio tracks. So I can make these really beautiful curves, right? So if I wanted this to fade over the first 8 bars, I can. So you can see now we have a nice, beautiful automation curve that just gently fades the volume in. And that's exactly what I want, right? So you can see the advantage here. Now, when it comes to mixing, you know, all my tracks are now like blank audio tracks, right? So I can start placing plugins. I've said this in other videos and I'll say it again here. The only 3 plugins that I use, you know, when it comes to like mixing is I use, here, I'll show you. It's the Sines Utility EQ. So I'll just put it down right here. It's just basically a Pro C2, which is a pad filter compressor, the Pro Q3, and a utility, which is basically setting for volume if I need to, right? So the volume, again, I don't really touch that because I've already touched the track fader, but in case it's something really, you know, outlandish happens, or I wanna go to mono, right? Or I wanna put the bass in mono, I can do that with the utility right here. You know, so that's a good thing to have, right? So I'll just maybe do some general EQ work here. You know, maybe we don't need these lows underneath 200 Hertz here because it's very high end anyway. So I'll take these out, right? Maybe I'll do some compression here, right? Just some light compression. See where this is falling? All the way down there. So I'll kind of put the threshold right around where it's peaking. You see that? Turn off the auto gain. There we go. Yeah. That works for me, right? Boost up the high end here. There we go. Just a nice gentle EQ, nothing crazy, right? And that's all I'll do for every single track. I'll go through one by one. I'll place these 3 plugins on the track. And yeah, that's how I reach the finish line. Now, for those of you who use the utility template out there, the other step that I might do is I might take them out of the buses. So you can see that they're all going to different buses right now. I'll select all the tracks that are in audio here. I'll select them all and I'll change them all going to the master, the main they call it now, all at the same time, just so we don't have any more, you know, anything going to this. And I'll also, for the limiter, I'll also adjust the limiter to taste. So maybe it's not +9 anymore. Maybe it's only, you know, I don't know, 6, 7, right? I'll lower the limiter a little bit, put that at 6 dB, and that's it. That's the only thing I do when I'm mixing. It's just very basic, very simple, but it's effective and it works for me. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. I appreciate you very much. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, let me know in the comments down below. I love hearing from you guys. And yeah, I'll be back again soon with more tutorials just like this one. In the meantime, take good care, you guys. And as always, heads in the clouds and keep planted firmly on the ground. My name is Chris from Science of Life, and I'll see you guys in the next video.